good? Thank you. All right, we'll kick this off. Thank you for attending the Strategic Asset and Planning meeting for the 10th of February 2026. Everyone is present bar Councillor McGuire. We have an apology from him. I'll just do the live stream policy. Please note this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with the Council's live streaming and recording of public meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. Okay, item 1 is Members' Declaration of Interest. Do we have any of those? No. Item 2 is Public Forum. We don't have anyone here. Item 3 is confirmation of committee minutes from the Strategic Asset and Planning meeting held back on the 11th of November 2025. These are read and confirmed as accurate record of proceedings of the meeting. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that one? Councillor Dennis, move. Councillor Goodman, second. All those in favour? That is carried. Item 4 is matters laid on the table. There is none. And item 5 are reports or decisions. So we will get straight into item 5.1, which is the unsealed roads hierarchy, and I will pass over to Rob. Kelly.
So I'm just going to do a broad recap on the report, and then Rob will obviously answer any technical questions, as he knows roads. So unsealed roads hierarchy, we've talked about it a couple of workshops. We were intending to talk about it in December, but unfortunately we ran out of time. So tonight it's presented to you. I'm hoping it's fairly self-explanatory given the amount of conversation that we've had in relation to unsealed roads. I think the key thing that Council has focused on is the opportunity to retain roads at a 4 metre width instead of having them built at 6 metres. As you know, we try to follow the best practice guidelines, and sometimes, that isn't always possible. So having a little flexibility in the hierarchies is something that we could potentially look at. Obviously, when we build roads, we want to do them right, we want to do them well, and that's why we aim to follow the best practice guidelines. But I have found down here in particular, that's not always possible, mainly because of roadside vegetation, which can be very, very large trees. So we've reviewed the hierarchy, we've looked at some other councils, and we think there's an opportunity to change the wording a little bit to allow some flexibility in those cases where it doesn't really make sense to extend the width to 6 metres. So over to you for any questions, comments.
No, good, thank you.
Councillor Grundy.
Councillor Crossling, thank you. I think it's, as we covered off in previous meetings, that the idea of being able to save resources where it's able to be saved for just as good an outcome is the way to go, and to have that flexibility for administration to call on is the best way to go.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I would just comment. I would agree with Councillor Grundy. I think we've landed in a good place, and well done and thank you. It's been a long conversation, and this makes good sense.
So we obviously have the draft wording there. Is there any questions about that? So we can go straight to
That's well done too.
the motion. Just go back up to it. So I've lost my spot. 2 seconds. You're happy to move that, Mayor Ross, as written. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Downwood. All those in favour? That is carried. It's crazy. Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'd just like to also, in relation to the road hierarchy, I'd also like to move another motion following on about something the council may be able to issue if that's allowed, please. Motion without notice technically.
Do that now or do that in?
It could form part of this.
Yep.
Thank you. I'd just like to move that a report be presented to the April Strategic Asset and Planning Committee showing changes to the unsealed road hierarchies over the past 10 years and detailing roads that have either had a change in hierarchy or been removed from the hierarchy over that same period.
Get all that.
You want to pass that around?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Pass it around.
The report we present today will strategic asset and planning committee should change those.
I'll fix up the typos afterwards.
We'll get the gist of it. Spell check will pick up on.
So Councillor Ireland, would you, through the chair, if I may, can you give us a bit of context around your proposed motion?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Certainly, Mayor Ross. It's just been brought to our attention over my term in council and prior that there has been roads that have perhaps slipped by the wayside. I mean, previous councils have built some of these roads and then they've been, through a lack of maintenance in some instances, have somehow disappeared off our road hierarchy. And it would just be nice for us to have a little bit more background as to which roads may be involved, and especially if a ratepayer comes to me as an elected member, it gives me some history that I can put forward as to what could have happened previously.
Thank you.
Councillor Grundy?
I'm happy to move that, and further to Councillor Ireland's comments, I think it's just a matter of good housekeeping. Seems to have been roads dropped off. Maybe that was by way of motions in the council, maybe it wasn't. And for us to be able to have a summary of what has been removed and what hasn't and when, and are there any legitimate reasons, would be just good housekeeping, and it would allow us as councillors to get our head around the broad situation.
I believe you've seconded it. I think Councillor Ireland's moved it.
Beg your pardon.
Question for me?
Councillor Grundy?
One, I'm not an expert in this area, but I felt that the CEO made a fairly good attempt to give me some of this history, but I do support the motion. My question would be, is that timely enough for the April meeting for the work to be done? And if so, I support the motion if the timing's okay.
Yeah, I believe we can meet the April meeting.
Okay, thank you. Not yet.
Any other questions? If not, I'll put that motion to the chamber. All those in favour? That is carried. Item 5.2 is the hard waste days and vouchers. Kelly?
Again, council has seen some of this information previously in relation to the hard waste days. Since the council last considered this matter, I have had a meeting with Envirotech just to talk through some of the logistics of the hard waste days, and there are some concerns from their end in terms of the volume of materials they're dealing with on those days, and also the safety on the site when there are so many people driving in and out. So that was really important feedback. We've done a bit of a look at other council examples and put those into the report, so you can see if there's something there that looks of interest to you, and then just a very brief pros and cons of the different methods of hard waste disposal that other councils do. So again, happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Ireland?
What's the situation, sorry, can you enlighten me please, or through the chair, who's appropriate, as to if we're having a voucher system, is this for Lucendale and Naracoorte with vouchers, but only set days, a set day a year for Lucendale people for rubbish, hard waste?
That is the proposal that's put forward, only on the basis that Lucendale transfer station isn't open. So we open it specifically for that one day, whereas Naracoorte isn't open, operating 5 days a week, 6 days a week operation. So the vouchers would work for Naracoorte, but they wouldn't work for Lucendale. So the idea is to keep that one hard waste day option for Lucendale as they currently have.
Sorry, Lucendale people will still get a voucher. They could use it Naracoorte if they wish.
Absolutely, yeah, no, all ratepayers. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just assume that Lucendale wouldn't have anywhere near the volume that Naracoorte receives. So it's done a lot easier for them to have a single day and then spread the Naracoorte load, which makes a lot of sense.
To access the vouchers.
Yeah.
I guess just to clarify, easier in terms of, queues and wait times, harder in that the waste transfer station isn't set up like it is at Naracoorte to be receiving stuff, so harder on the end of the contractors dealing with that.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd like to commend the report and presenting the dilemma with the solution as well. The voucher system, I think, if communicated properly, will offset the the community are quite fond of their hard waste days, so I think this gives them an opportunity to break up the flow and it's got some real merit. I think it depends on our number, I suppose, that we propose equivalency.
Councillor Ross?
Has Envirotech indicated sort of what, if we're going to spread it out on vouchers, have they come back with an indication of what the cost will be to council?
No, so that'd be the next step, is scope that out. It would depend on how many vouchers and just do a bit of an assessment of what that would mean overall for the...
Yeah, because I'd say there's obviously, they've got employment costs they've got to factor into it. So would there be potentially, if we're going to go down the voucher pathway, still perhaps still limits it in particular time periods or day periods to probably try to minimise that, maybe, is something?
I think part of the beauty of the voucher system is to allow people flexibility. So from if they're working or, have weekends.
You can still give flexibility, but what I'm probably getting at there is that if we're going to go put the voucher system, they've got to spread it out of the whole year, aren't they? So maybe to minimise some of that, it might be that the voucher system is available maybe every second month. I don't know, I'm just trying to work out, if we're going to try to minimise the cost here, because it's got to be a way of trying to minimise some of the cost anyhow, because if you're going to go and put it broadly over 12 months, it's going to be, I believe, pretty easy. If it's a full-time position potentially they're putting on, those what we've spent previously is going to be pretty quickly gobbled up in costs, I would have thought. So that's my thoughts anyhow. So.
Mayor Ross and then Councillor Jonas.
I too have been to Envirotech when this first came to my attention from a ratepayer who also pays at Wattle Range and lives at Beachport, and spoke with them. They have an employee on site all the time, so there's no extra cost involved. They have an employee there. If someone comes in a vehicle, they'd attend to the punch or however the voucher would be engaged and deal with the rubbish. So there's already someone there. But I agree, Councillor Ross, get the scoping done, do the numbers and come up with the best thing for the ratepayer.
There was something in the report in relation to the fact that our current fee systems do cover some of the hard waste costs, but not all, and now that it's sort of got quite expensive, that it's blown out the end. So perhaps this voucher system with its restriction on and the loading will allow us to come back under that cost base and not really be any extra net cost to council anyway, the scoping.
Councillor Turner?
I thought that there are limited times when the public can dump or go to the hard waste anyway, and those times I assume would stay the same. So therefore the labour's already there, I can't see the extra cost. My other assumption is similar amount of volume of waste, whether it's done in 6, 4 or 3 separate lots is similar to a big hard waste day, but I think one of the benefits here is the ease of separation of waste into better categories. I haven't done this for a long time, but I went there once and I was sort of thinking we could separate, and it was just like a hurry to get everything into the same hole. So I actually think, I can't see there's a huge increase in labour. I see there's a benefit in separating waste, from hard waste, metals and other types of waste. I think that's a benefit. And I certainly think from the public's point of view, to give them the flexibility of going out to the dump when it suits them, I think that is great. It's also a bit like a golf club giving vouchers for sponsorship. You might give someone, a business, half a dozen vouchers for green fees, for argument's sake. It doesn't mean to say that everybody takes those vouchers up. So I assume, whilst you might give out 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 vouchers per ratepayer, I assume a lot of those ratepayers may not even use one, and some will use the 6. You definitely can't assume they'll all use the vouchers, and they have a time limit, so they are specified between one rate year and the next. I commend the suggestion, and as well, again, it's well presented. Thank you, and I support it.
Councillor Goodman.
Thank you. I just a few things. A point of clarification: the Lucendale Hard Waste Day. I think it said in the recommendation or in the report that proof of would be required, but I'm assuming that anyone from within the council district would be able to attend Lucendale. It wouldn't be for only Lucendale residents, it would just be located there. Excellent, thank you. And then also I see there in the recommendation that we're looking to set a number of vouchers. Have you got any guidance around, I don't know what that might cost if we did 3, 4 or 5, how we might go about making a decision around how many are provided?
No, I don't. But I don't think it would. I don't think the cost difference would be massive. My feeling is that you would probably go for no more than 6, because I think the situation in Wattle Range is they don't manage payment at the transfer station. That's why I think that's part of the reason they have so many vouchers. I think from an administrative point of view and posting out the vouchers and the cost related to the voucher production itself, I would probably stick with around 6 as a maximum.
And one more question, if I may. Is there any fear of, reproduction of these vouchers? How do you manage that, or is that not something, given the nature of what we're dealing with, that is a huge concern?
It's not a huge concern. And my view is that if, 1 or 2 people try to take advantage, which they probably will, then
That's part of it.
That's just part of it. I don't imagine it would be such a massive issue. But I don't think we're going to be producing, watermarked plastic. In your face.
Well, QR codes these days might be the thing.
If I may answer that question, we did something similar to something around Australia competition, and you can easily get a printer can easily print a different number, like a raffle ticket for every print if you want to do a print run. And if you wanted to, you could actually match those batches back. And if you want to measure, you might say certain numbers go to a certain part of the town. You might choose to measure that, which would be useful too. But that would overcome your concern. But also, I think it might have benefit to see. It's probably worth investing a bit of time to measure it in the first year to see who's doing what. And I also felt that you've got less waste going in your red bin if you're going out to the dump with the big run. I can't see that the volume's going to be much greater. I just think it's spread over time where the labour already exists.
Yes. Raina?
I think the other thing, the ratepayers would have to hand them on to some of their tenants, wouldn't they?
Yes, they would. Yeah, and that's what happens at.
Know that there was vouchers available.
Yeah, they do obviously suggest that the landlords pass them on to the tenants, whether that actually happens or not. I did put a post up on social media to gauge our bit of community perspective. I've had over 110 comments since about 10 o'clock last night, all very much in favour of the voucher system. The only comment, one curbside collection comment, but I think the significant cost of that outweighs that going down that path. The only other thing is there a size for the, is it like just a 6x4 trailer? Do you actually specify when people rocking up with semi-trailers worth of hard waste? So is it just the other comment was probably even 3 to 4 vouchers would be plenty, one every 4 months sort of thing. I don't think, and again, as the commentary has said, you can always do it for a year, and if we can measure it, you can always get some feedback from the community and see if everyone's happy to continue with it. It's nothing stopping us from reverting back if it's not a great thing, but the commentary has been definitely that those hard waste days that are held here in Naracoorte are huge lineups, and it isn't doesn't work for everyone because lots of people do work on weekends, so having that flexibility of a voucher is really popular amongst our community. So yeah, I think either 3 or 4 vouchers, I think it'd be plenty, but it's up to
Vouchers
Mayor
and
Ross.
rate notices.
Happy to move, and would you like to allow for a certain amount? Would you like to add a number in there, Mayor Ross?
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissoring it?
Can I ask a question before he does that, just to get clarity of this?
Yep.
I think that you've got to either say 1 voucher, 1 trailer, or you say 1 voucher is a flat trailer and 2 vouchers is a raised trailer, so 6 becomes 3, if you're going to do that, which is why I was hinting that we might do 6, because I think you need to have, you might have 3 vouchers worth of rubbish, or 2 or 1, and if you want to make this big giant trip to the trailer, it might cost you 3 vouchers. So I think that's where your other part of your policy can be written, but I think 6 would be appropriate.
So I'm happy to move for 12 free hard waste.
Hang on.
That's 1 a month. Yeah.
Do we-
And, you know, the reason, so because you haven't quantified, and that's in the regulations, so until you quantify whether it's 8x5s or 6x4s, and the way people come and deliver that, and then you can double up a voucher. So, you know, 12 may well become 6. And I know that in some areas they actually talk about the size of your bin or in litres, and then they talk about that, and then that's a bin's a voucher, a trailer's 2 vouchers, etc., etc. So that's how you might start with 12, but you actually end up with 6 trailer loads per annum.
Can I ask?
So there's various ways to do the maths.
Are we getting a little bit, are we muddying the water a little bit though if we're starting to?
So that's the point. So I think that what we should be doing is recommending to council that we actually we go along down the line of hard waste vouchers, and so that's the recommendation to council. And in the meantime, perhaps, you know, some more discussion needs to be had around the way that voucher system would work. You know, if we're doing it in bin lots, or 2 bins become a 6x4 or an 8x5, and then that will then give you a better handle on volume.
Councillor Ross, did you have a question?
I think you're going to have to, if you're going to go to 12, right, I think you're going to have to probably ask for a couple of different variations to the tenders back to Envirotech, because I think you're all probably missing a point a little bit, is that there's going to be a cost. At the moment, people are going up there and they're paying to get their waste removed, to be recycled or to be disposed. So if you're going to be throwing in free hard waste, they're losing some revenue, so they're going to try to, any sort of business person would be there to try to get it compensated. So I think you probably may need to look at this at a couple different ways. You may ask, can you please tender on 6 and then maybe 12, you know, or just change the way it's going to be. Yeah.
Can we just make a suggestion and then we'll come to the office down?
I'm just suggesting maybe the second dot point is silent on the number, and we do the scoping, and then we can give you some more costs. And
they should be able to give us an idea of what it's going to cost us. Yeah, and then we can come back and make a decision whether it's going to be whatever. I think it's.
I just want to say that, like, those that go out there now, you know, the amount of material that they'll turn up with is fairly significant, or can be fairly significant. If you go to a 6x4 water level trailer, that's 1 voucher, that'll be 1 mattress. You know, and you get people going out there, you know, they go to half a dozen mattresses or whatever. You know, how do you deal with that? So at the moment, I think a voucher is just get rid of the crap, so that's not on the side of the road or whatever. I mean, what we're trying to do is spread it across the year so that they're not getting it all in one day.
So if I could just mention,
Alan?
sorry, I actually agree with, I think, the basis that Mayor Ross was issuing in that, I mean, if you've got a 20-foot by 6-foot trailer behind your car, as opposed to a 6x4, you're talking a huge, huge quantity of hard waste. So I think we do have to have some measuring instigated here as to what size we're talking.
So I'm happy to,
Leave blank until we get some more clarity.
So a hard waste voucher allowing for free waste. Yeah, just take out the dash for free hard waste deliveries. Yep.
Excellent. Are there more questions, comments? Yes. No worries. Seconded by Councillor Ireland. All those in favour? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks for that report. Sorry. Item 5.3, Mundalina Road. Kelly?
Thank you. Another matter that has been before council multiple times over many years. The most recent resolution was to scope options be scoped and presented to council for consideration in the 26-27 budget. So we've done a little bit of work on, I guess, re-scoping what could happen at Mundalina Road to bring back the costs that were being proposed. Again, this is looking at not the bells and whistles. This is there's a section of the road that needs more intervention, and Rob can talk to this, but this is about looking at the road realistically and working out what parts would need some more work than others. There is a section where we would need to lift the road substantially because of drainage issues. Otherwise, we'd be going back repeatedly to do maintenance. And so we've walked through the road. We've met with Mr. Watson on site and talked to him about, what they're anticipating as a community along there. There is also a suggestion that we may be able to access some quarry material from an adjoining property, but I don't think we've actually looked at that.
No, we've not made contact with the landowner yet.
So that's potentially something that we could look at. So Rob's done a fair bit of work putting costings together, and he's put forward two options within the body of the report and then a recommended approach. And happy for... and just to stress the grazing permits that exist on that road. We spoke to Mr. Watson about those permits and the requirement that we would want to see about making sure that it's very clear to anyone using the road that it is a public road and they can open and shut the gates. So that is, and he is happy with that.
Questions? Councillor Goodwin?
Yeah, thank you for the detail in the report. It sets out really clearly the history and why and how things have happened, and I appreciate that. Two costings have been proposed, and I think the second one, which is less, was identifying that there are some areas of the road that don't need to be lifted as much. However, the recommendation is for the 415,000 version, and I just wondered if you could give some context as to why that one had been recommended over the other.
Well, we put the higher recommendation in there that is probably doing the best job for that section that we've identified, that 2.1 kilometre section. So we've just left the higher figure in there. If the decision direction is given to go with the reduced scope and the lower option, we can change the recommendation.
Follow-on question, if I may, which is, what do you see as the risks if we go with the lower costed version?
I've done as well.
I guess it's the same risk you carry if you do any reduction in against the best practice, I guess. It's more wear and tear on your road, potentially. I mean, one of the bigger risks in this, I think, is around, because we're looking at focusing on a section of the road, other parts of that road may suffer because of the work that's being done. But it's really about, it may mean that we have to go back and intervene more in that road over time. Is that appropriate?
Yep, that's the point.
Councillor Grundy?
Well, I think that this report and this recommendation captures a more moderate approach, a more practical approach. We're not talking about a road that doesn't get much use. That's going to cost council in excess of 1.3, I think, which is what was proposed earlier. So, you know, it's the best outcome, I think. On account of that, I'll move it.
No worries. Councillor Rowan, a second. Was there any other questions or comments regarding that motion? Put the motion to the chamber. All those in... Mayor Ross, what were you? Okay. All those in favour? That motion is carried. Okay, we will go on to item 5.4, the roadworks efficiency review. Kel?
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, this is a matter that has been before council multiple times over the past couple of years. We did have a workshop in May last year, and I apologise that it's taken this long to come back to council in relation to a finalised report. I'm not going to go over all the history or discussion other than to say that we have gone through the Wheaton report, that it's fair to say there are parts of it that we still haven't interrogated fully in terms of things that we could do. Many of the activities that have been suggested by Wheaton are either in train or are on our radar. There are some elements of the Wheaton report that we probably think may not be 100% accurate in terms of, you know, the information that we have and we think we can work with. So the table in the report is really to summarise a very, very hefty document and just to give you a high-level understanding of broadly what we're doing. Obviously, if you want more detail on that, we can provide that in due course. But I think I might just push that open to questions straight away.
Questions?
Got a question?
Councillor Turner, yep.
It's a bit of a layman question, but having looked at the report and there were questions raised about whether we needed to have that particular report, do you feel like it was valuable to have the Wheaton report as part of an overall what would you call it, inquiry, I suppose, or a benchmarking or assessment, do you think?
So the Tallis report and the Wheaton report have two very different purposes. Tallis is about condition assessment and valuation. Wheaton is about an efficiency review. So in my mind, they are both very valid reports to undertake. I think most organisations, particularly where public funds are used by the organisations, should undertake its own efficiency reviews from time to time and sometimes bring in independents to do that. So yes, I believe they were both different and necessary reports.
Councillor Grundy?
Subject to what the discussion is and that sort of thing, I'd like to flag an amendment to the recommendation. I'm happy with the recommendation, but I'd like to flag an amendment. After reading the appendix, which we were provided with a month ago or so, I think it warrants further discussion in the Wheaton's Enterprise report. And given that there's probably quite a bit of commercial in confidence material in there, I think it should be, say, a briefing session, and I think it should be confidential. And so I'd like to propose that we have an amendment that goes.
Well, it's not an amendment because we haven't moved to motion. You can all be the
Oh,
motion.
the motion, reword it if you wish to.
Yep.
Make a new alteration to the motion.
Well, I'd like to move an alteration to the amendment. I'd like to add to the recommendation.
Yes.
And that is that the CEO be directed to convene a confidential briefing session to further discuss opportunities regarding the Wheaton Enterprises report.
Mayor Ross.
Councillor Crossling, this doesn't preclude us from Councillor Grundy's proposed motion, doesn't preclude us from actually moving to council with the suggested recommendation. It's a separate issue in my opinion, and we could actually go to council. You could actually go to council noting that the information provided and the measures have been undertaken or are planned to address the gaps that have been identified. What Councillor Grundy is raising are specific issues around confidential items or commercially important items that could be taken up supplementary to the recommendation that would go to council. I just put that.
Oh, sorry.
Move a separate motion.
Yeah.
Wanted to simplify.
I think that's a good idea. A separate notice without motion.
Into 1 and 2 and have a separate second.
So Councillor Grundy certainly can have the first motion. Yep. 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 Second.
Okay. So we're just going to deal with the first one first. We'll just deal with the first motion.
So I'm certainly happy to move the strategic asset planning notes the information provided
Measures have been undertaken.
recommendation.
Mayor Ross moved. Councillor Dennis seconded. We're happy with that one? All those in favour? And then we can move to the next recommendation. And that will be moved by Councillor Grundy, seconded by Councillor Rona. Any discussion? All those in favour? Carried. Okay. Item 6, reports for information. There is none. No questions with notice. There are no motions with notice. No. Are there any questions without notice? We've already had the motions without notice. And there are no matters to be considered in confidence. So the next meeting will be on the 13th of April 2026, and the meeting is closed at 6:38 p.m. Thank you for attending.